Right, you do the intro, then I'll come in after.
Okay.
But yeah, settle, mate.
Well, I can't do 4 things at once, Cameron.
Something to scream about!
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to Something to Scream About. This is episode 14, and this one is going to be an absolute doozy because we have ventured international this week. We have crossed the
Border of
the various different borders. We've flown miles. I think it's miles over there.
via the internet.
Yeah, we've gone crazy. This week, we have a special guest, and we're talking all things, I guess, vocals. So I'll hand it over to you, Cam, to introduce our special guest.
Yes, ladies and gents. So his name is Brandon Kennedy, and I'm looking at his little face right now on the laptop. And he is my vocal coach that I have, I suppose, jumped on with. And he has helped me with my vocals like insanely. So pretty much for our first EP, I was only screaming for about 4 months. And I was just doing the basic whisper fries that you learn off fucking YouTube, like what everyone does. And yeah, so I went on to find a vocal coach and stumbled across his videos, and then we'll let him discuss about, the course and who he is and what he does and stuff. So, Brandon, mate.
Welcome to the podcast. Thanks for doing this, my friend. Oh, I can't hear you. Fuck.
Yeah.
That's why I said, what you think? There it is.
Well, thanks for having me. Appreciate it.
Yeah, cool.
All good. Yeah. So tell us a little bit about yourself, your background in a little bit of vocals, and kind of what you do.
Sure. Well, first of all, thanks for having me on the podcast. It's my first time on a podcast, so I'm just gonna.
Oh, we popped
with
this
it.
podcast cherry.
His party. Goddamn Australians.
We'll have
man.
one with the Unified Extreme.
Yes.
Hell yeah, man.
Podcast
When our
going
band
on at
blows
some
up,
point,
yeah.
There's lots of things that seem like they're right on the edge of becoming, big breaks for you guys. For me, it's a good time. So I don't even know where to begin, honestly. I'll try to keep it brief because it's a long time coming. I've been doing this for like 14 years now.
Woo.
I used to have YouTube videos out. Pretty much all of them are privatized now. Quality standard stuff. I made my first screaming tutorial like 2 weeks after I learned some basic shit. And obviously, like the interesting thing is when I look back at them, I could kind of see what I was going on about, but I didn't really know what I was talking about, much like most YouTube tutorials, So anyways, after a point, and I'll get to that, I kind of took stuff down and was like, okay, I'm really going to get this stuff right and master different kinds of vocals before I open my mouth, because my hunch was, there's all these like, there's numerous analogies that I could give, but one that I think kind of sums it up is when you're doing particularly extreme vocals, not as much singing's difficult to master in its own ways, but at least you know how to use your vocal cords on a basic level. Whereas with screaming, you have to like kind of start with a crawl before you walk.
Yeah.
In the sense of you've never used these muscles before, you've never coordinated your voice like this. We need to start really, really basic to get you a refined control over different parts of your voice before they all like combine together. There's like numerous different muscle movements. All of it has to flow, and you can't think about any of it while you're doing it. So it's kind of like
it's very self-aware of you to be able to like pick that up. Because from what I understand, you started this quite young. So to be able to like pick up the fact that you need to like spend a little bit more time in the scene or in the instrument or whatever to figure it out before you can start talking about it. There's so many people out there that just go straight out there, and myself included. I've made that mistake, just being like, I think I know it straight away. I'm so excited to just talk about it, and then you just want to teach, and you kind of just
Speaking about being in the scene as well, like you've worked, not worked with, but you've been had lessons with Melissa Cross, haven't you?
Yeah, well, that's a whole other thing. I mean, I started out looking at the Zen of Screaming before I did anything else in like 2008. But then in 2016, I think, I had made a tutorial in which I've just kind of just how I roll. That's how I think everyone should roll, but I can't really like, to each their own, I guess, with how honorable someone's going to be. But I, if anything, that I pass on to people comes from a different source. Like in this case, Melissa Cross, I'm going to give credit where it's due and not pretend like I came up with something.
100%.
First of all, because there's no point in reinventing the wheel. Like
yes.
Most, if not all of Melissa Cross's exercises are actually really useful and prime for different purposes. And I think people that don't recognize that just don't have the context to which they need to be applied.
Yes.
But for me, it's like, why I don't have any reason to like come up with a slightly different thing. It's like, yeah, this exercise, this is what it is. This is where it came from. So I was doing that in the only tutorial I have up is that one from 2016, which is not even, people think it's pretty great. I don't even think it's that good. It's like nothing compared to what I have done since in the course behind the paywall and what I have coming for free tutorials, which is a lot. But anyways, I hit Melissa Cross up for a lesson. She didn't know who I was. She then saw that I had this tutorial. She appreciated that I actually, gave her credit, where I guess she's quite used to people just ripping her stuff and just not crediting her, which I can imagine is very annoying.
And she doesn't scream herself like properly, like metal scream. She'll just do like a basic fry, and people hear that little 10-second snippet, and you'll be like, "Oh, her screaming's trash," and you're like, "Yo, chill, dude." Like her exercises are meant to get people to scream better and safer, and it's not necessarily if she's like a sick metal vocalist herself, right?
Yeah, my summed up perspective is that since the beginning, besides, keep in mind that when Melissa Cross was coming up with the things that she came up with, there was no information from anyone. Also, this is another thing that... Well, even that, like, there wasn't YouTube. There wasn't
true.
any kind of standardized, communication system of anything. And another thing I'm going to emphasize, this is all stuff I'm going to address in free material. I have in my free part of my course, entire third of it, I'm going to have 6 massive lessons, each kind of, going into different topics that are pretty major. And the first one's all just going to be a scientific understanding and like a more of a history of like, where do we start? Where are we now? Because I'm kind of having to create a whole new system that, based on my research, did lots of laryngoscopy research to figure out what's actually happening when I do different stuff. And then that changes and challenges a lot of the narratives that are common online, which is why, when we're communicating and you use like online terms to me, I'm like, I know what you're trying to say, but it like,
that's the YouTube.
It pains me at the same time.
That's the YouTube tutorial bloody shit where you're like, everyone's saying different stuff, but no one's an actual vocal coach. These are just kids that have just like stuffed around since high school and figured something out.
Even then though, there's like just kind of terms that are tossed around on the internet that people... there's not like a core definition. They're all convoluted. They all kind of have crossover, which is the natural way of it. That's why, Unified Extreme Vocal Academy is my brand. It's just an extreme vocal academy or an extreme vocal course that's unified. Yeah. Everything's basically a massive spectrum. There's this and there's that, because even the false chord fry duality, it's like
you can do both, right? At the same time.
Well, the thing is, mechanically, to actually master what people call fry, you require false chord mechanics. It's almost the main thing.
I wish we had a sound effect for that, like a bomb going off. Like those radio shows go like, because literally,
we'll get there, maybe.
Most people that are like, you can't do fries and false chords, man, at like the same time, man. It's like you can't.
Well, so then to finish that, then for false chord or heavier scream mechanics, which also isn't the original definition of Melissa Cross's definition, is actually accurate, and then what it became on the internet's not so much, at least anatomically, but all that, whatever people mean by that, gets optimized by fry conditions. And by that I mean that there's a distinction between a phonation quality, which is whether the voice is kind of doing whatever it's doing, that's a phonation, versus the conditions around making that happen. So the same muscular movements and coordinations are necessary for both. There's complete overlap. You can't really master one without the other, and they're not two different things. They're kind of just like a different blend of the same principles. So, I mean, this is extremely, extremely summarized. I'm going to probably I'm going to do a tutorial that kind of does all 6 lessons summarized, it might be 4 hours long. I don't know. I'll cut it in. there's 20 different parts if I need to, but yeah.
So speaking on your tutorials, bro, so let's tell the people, like, so we've said that it's Unified Vocal Extreme or Academy, or
it's just extreme. It's Unified Extreme Vocals, and then the reason why the brand is called Unified Extreme because it just leaves versatility. So the Unified Extreme Vocal Academy, Vocal Course, community, like there's a lot of different things.
So that's the name of it, and so that's how people can find you. They can Google this. We can put a link obviously into our YouTube video description. For anyone that's doing heavy metal vocals, any sort of deathcore, metalcore, I don't know, bloody
anything.
Whatever.
You want to scream?
Anything
gritty singing, even, man. Like, it's all good.
Yeah, anything involving overtone and distortion. Or distortion is my specialty. Although a lot of the same principles also apply to clean singing. I have friends that are just like their whole thing is clean singing. So, I usually recommend people that they're super enthused in that area for more versatility. I feel like I want to finish the thought about the Melissa Cross basis because that's pretty important before we jump into my tutorials.
Okay.
Very easy. It's way too much information regarding all this. Like I said, like I intend to give context to everything and not only ask people to like take my word for stuff. I'm going to be presenting my research findings and giving a lot of context. I find that's really important.
The laryngoscopy stuff's really cool.
Around stuff.
So laryngoscopy, is that how you say it?
Don't look at me, man.
That's how I say it.
The camera down the throat thing, guys. If you don't know what that is, they grab a camera, they put it like down your nose throat thing, and they see your voice box itself. And Brandon's gone and recorded different screams, and you can physically see the camera of his muscles moving and shaping in different forms to create these sounds. It's very
that's
interesting.
Actually very cool, man.
Yeah, so that was a whole thing because there's just like a lot of unanswered questions, and I needed to get data before I just form a thought. And hilariously, I mean, this is good. This is how science is supposed to be. I had a bunch of ideas that were proven wrong by the research, and then I updated my criteria accordingly to be the most correct I possibly can.
Which no other vocal teacher's doing that, man. So like, you got to give yourself credit for that.
Yeah, no, it's definitely cutting edge. I mean, to me, it's just necessary. That's the thing is, I kind of just at a point, I was like, well, if I'm gonna do this, I might as well just fucking do it correctly. And if I don't do it correctly, then what's the point of fucking doing it? I'm also just like, I try to not be very perfectionist anymore, even though I inherently kind of am, but it's more like just milestones. I'm not looking for like, I'm never going to know everything about the voice. There's always going to be new stuff. We're going to need to do like MRI and other things and high speed imaging to really get to know stuff. And even then it's still kind of mysterious, but I'm trying to hit like milestones, which I have in almost every way so far needed to produce the content, and just get not only milestones of awareness, but also data to be like, hey, I'm not just going to like say something that challenges everything you think you know about vocals and just be like, I think it's different. It's no, here's the actual footage. I don't really care if you disagree. Think whatever you want to think. I'm just going to put forth this information.
Yeah.
Then I'm going to follow up and show you and help you experience how that information will actually unlock your voice in a practical way. And so that's kind of a major thing too, is it's not just like I'm doing this, I don't know, for pure intellectual circle jerk. And like,
amazing.
I don't know.
It's amazing how just one little, one little thing can just unlock the voice as well. Like one little tip, one little like sound effect. From my personal experience, a lot of vocals for me, what unlocked a lot of sounds for me was that I didn't realize that all the beatboxing that I did for years, because I loved hip hop and beatboxing, graffiti, breakdancing growing up. That was like my scene. I didn't understand that all of these beatboxing techniques I was doing was literally me practicing vocals, because I was never a vocalist, never tried to sing, like didn't care about, wasn't ever going to be a vocalist. But then I realized when I started screaming, I was like, oh, that's just my bass sound, like like that was me doing a bass, like a bass line and beatboxing. But then that's actually a form of throat singing and distortion, false fold distortion. And then I could get false chord screams instantly. Didn't even have to practice. You were like, oh, dude, just do this and this. And then I did. And I was like, oh, I can false chord scream. Like no practicing, no barking dog, no, all the other crap they say. I just had it straight away.
So that's the interesting thing, and that's why the unified perspective is very helpful, and that's why I could, for example, teach someone who wants to get better at beatboxing how to produce sounds, is because there's three main layers, right? The vocal folds, false chords, and arytenoid cartilages, which could also then be distinguished as two different parts, but we'll keep it simple. And they can just express in a bunch of different qualities. You can manipulate the vocal tract to get different tones. There's what I've sought to do is to view it as a whole and figure out all the, not only the micro nuances of how it works, but how, like, what is consistent, like a tree, like there's this core foundation, and then where is it branch off, but where is it also consistent to where this thing is essential, unlocks everything, blah, blah, blah. You teach it to anyone trying to do anything of this nature with their voice. Doesn't matter if it's singing with a little bit of distortion or beatboxing or screaming, numerous types of screaming. It's been interesting figuring out what's, like that thing, that's particular to that style. Whereas this is needed in everything. And
that's very true. I would find that, like, personally, I'd find it difficult. Like, how do you balance coming across different voices and people, knowing that, like, the voice is an instrument and everyone is shaped differently, and then you have to then create different shapes, like you're saying, some that are fundamental to creating the sound and some that are nuanced to each individual person's voice box or setup.
He has to teach me. Sorry to interrupt. I just have ADHD. He teaches me different than he teaches other people. Like, Brendan's literally said, I shouldn't be saying this, but just because, what does he say? You shouldn't be saying this, but because I'm doing one thing really well, you're like, just fucking go for it. Like, normally I tell people to just go for it. But
fuck, man. All this shit's so deep and versatile.
It's really hard on a podcast.
There needs to be, like, the yin and yang symbols of great representation of most things, but it also is representative of, like, an active and passive approach, or a mind and no mind approach. There has to be room for creative flow as well as what resonates with an individual. So I couldn't just be like, well, here's one way that works and that's it.
Yeah,
I try to have versatility, and I try to work with people's strengths to identify, I just can see that you're really good at mimicry, and also you have particular coordinations that come very natural to you, whereas other ones, like everyone learning vocals, are a little different and, like, outside your comfort zone. So it's like, okay, well, and I'm actually making flow charts for this, by the way. It's why I haven't been putting out content. I'm literally making maps of how you could follow different processes to end up at a result. And then there's a couple different ways for that. And then simplifying that to where it becomes, like, 10 things become 5 things, become 2 things, become 1 thing. And that one thing at the end is whatever your technique is. But it's that's to where you can coordinate all the different necessary
things. Visuals,
things.
Man, like putting visuals to
visual learning
to keys, like in a muscular keys with a visual, and you read it almost like reading music, and then you read the music and your hand goes to the note. It's like similar to that, but like a vocal sort of.
Yeah, and it's tough because, hilariously, and what I've had to learn is, like, a lot of people are more simple-minded than they want to be complex, and people are like, we want simple. The unfortunate side effect is that an overly simplified approach results in kind of elementary technique development, at least most of the time with screaming, not all the time. Like, the inner work of, trial and error and feeling out what works and coordinating stuff and getting used to it is, like, what I went through, what most people have gone through. Anyone who's a great vocalist has just gone through that process. And I would say 99.9% of them don't understand how they do it. They just do it. Yeah. And so the nature of the voice is weird because it has to operate from a subconscious level. But if someone comes to me, and this, often this happens, like, how does blank, how do you do blank, how do you scream, blah, blah, blah. Well, the answer is not actually simple. It's like, how does a car go? You can't just, you could say, oh, well, you put in the key and you fucking hit the gas and you're good. But that's not actually,
it's not doing it justice.
Like, more to it.
Yeah.
There's kind of this balance, like a yin and yang between that perspective and the actual what's under the hood thing. Because if you only went from the simplified, people will end up with very basic kind of subpar techniques. And I mean, that's the other thing is there's a spectrum of refined and unrefined techniques. And there's also people's individual callings. Like if someone's like, I don't care about, like, well, let's be honest, most vocalists have decently inflated egos or desire to like be great. And that's not a bad thing. That's almost anyone who's doing an entertainment related thing. If your sense of identity,
dude, you have
is
to be a front man. You have to be a front man. Like if you're up the front, you gotta have that X factor.
Well, I'm not shitting on it either. I definitely go for a more authentic and integrated take on spirituality. It's like the egoic sense of self is a completely necessary, function of consciousness to relate to reality at all. So it's not that. It just, back to the point, most people who are vocalists want to be great. They have like a favorite vocalist or a couple, and they're like, I want to be as good as them.
You can't half-ass it.
Make people feel how they make me feel. Yeah. That's, at least for me, is more like the original drive was, wow, I feel emotions and things that are quite amazing from particular pieces of music. What would give my life purpose in a way is to affect people positively in this kind of way too. But then I think it gets also wrapped up in like, well, if you're going to do it, you want to be really good at it. And so, but I'm not going to assume that. I'm just going to say, okay, look, if you want to be like top tier, there's levels of complexity that are inherent to the voice. If you want me to give you like a really simple answer, you're probably not going to get that far, because you're going to get a certain amount and then realize that, oh, there's pieces missing to this puzzle. I can't just do the next thing. Like when I go, oh, could you actually even hear that?
Yeah. I don't know. Wow, that sounded. Whoa.
That's like a super refined cartilage effect, similar in feeling to the buzzer, but seems way more intense. But I'm actually not trying any harder. And then that's actually 90% of the technique. And then you open your mouth and
it's like, like just crazy.
Oh my God.
Right. So, but that actually feels.
Imagine that over like a drum.
That feels like me going. Like in terms of how much effort. And that's not to say that there isn't compression and breath support from the solar plexus or abdomen, and that there isn't compression going on here. It's just that those are neutralized through. And if someone, for the lows specifically, was like, how does that work? My buddy Antonio, who's like going to be my co-host in my podcast and all that stuff, and has helped me develop my method a lot, because it's been like, teaching him everything that I've ever learned in a similar path. It's just been really interesting. But anyways, there's like at least 7 different major muscle coordinations in what I just did, at least 7. And then those have to combine and synchronize and overlap and flow. And I can't be thinking about any of it. It's just like it's like, how perfect example, Cam, is like the buzzer. So
yeah,
there's numerous things that go into buzzer.
It just happens.
There's the extreme NG, there's like the rounded tone, like operatic resonance. There's the kind of empty sigh breath quality that's very chesty. And then there's the breath support. So if I just told anyone about these things, it was like, okay, well, you need to know about all these things. If one of those pieces of the puzzle aren't there, then you're not going to be able to do the thing.
Yeah.
But fast forward to now, you can do it. You don't have to think about any of that shit.
No,
it's just like, hey, dude, do the buzzer.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right? And so that's, And so this is what I actually need to reiterate when I not only recreate existing course material, but put out the free tutorials, which will have this kind of stuff and more, and teach basic screams and stuff, is that there's this kind of balance between going mind and no mind. And there's a level of mind or complexity, in my opinion, necessary to actually pass on the nuances, but then can be simplified. And then the result being the no mind approach, which
autonomous.
Melissa Cross is super like that's one of her main points, is that the no mind approach is the necessary way that the voice works. And that's true. And that's also how classical and contemporary voice is taught a lot of the time. So for me, it's a little back to an original analogy is people don't realize this, but it's like there's this puzzle, and But before that, you're in a dark room. The lights are off. You can't see shit. You don't even know there's a puzzle in front of you. You don't know what the pieces look like.
Yeah.
You don't know what the fuck they're trying to form. This is like learning extreme vocals because you're having to learn different parts of your throat, mix it with the voice, balance everything.
Yes,
you're in this
annoying.
dark room. You don't fucking know what's going on. You don't even know that there's a table with a puzzle on it. You don't know the puzzle pieces, whatever. So what I've done in 14 years is turn the fucking lights on, looked at everything, started pieced, there's a bunch of puzzle pieces Melissa Cross had. There's lots of other great stuff I picked up from, I've studied classical, contemporary, any vocal tutorials out there that are particularly good or people that are established in that I've looked at. Generally, the way I'm never gonna talk down about anyone. I can't, because that happens a lot with vocal teachers. It's quite cringe, but there's
it's the middle course scene.
There's the way I see it is that everyone has something to offer, even students. The phrase teaching is learning twice. I learn lots from people I teach, and even just different reflections. And so I think that as students, as we all are, there's a skill to extract the gold from any given piece of media. The challenge is to know what's legitimate and what's potentially problematic or unrefined or maybe not the best call. And so my goal with what I'm putting out for free, as well as, in the course, is to give people at least my perspective on the totality of everything, the context between unrefined approaches such as the old ones like the sigh or the dog bark, which kind of, unless you really change what they're doing, they can lead to limitations like plateaus where you don't get any better because you can't, because your fundamentals are off, which is like a Jenga tower where you have to go way down.
Way harder to unlearn as well.
Yeah, so the Jenga
that's what
tower
me with the whisper fries, why I'm having so much damn dramas, because I learned the and I learned it the whisper way, and I'm trying so hard to get out of that damn habit.
That's a whole other thing, because you could actually utilize false chord mechanics to make that beefier and retain the actual vocal fry effect, but you don't actually want to do that. You want to fry hybrid where you're actually shouting and then mixing the fry quality, but depending on what you do, that could actually come from the false chords or other layers. That's the other thing. So anyways, the words I'm saying right now would totally confuse someone on the internet. They'd be like, what are you talking about? Right? So that's why I have to make a fucking 4-hour plus video to just explain
it does
the fundamental understanding.
It kind of confuses me a little, obviously, because I'm fresh to vocals and screaming. But it's super interesting. And what it seems like you're doing with your course and all the work that you're putting in is basically giving people the ability to use all these techniques and things as a language and expression when you're actually using the vocals. So it's fully autonomous. It just comes out when you want to express that. And I sort of relate to that playing drums. You might spend so long just working on some particular little, rudiment or some fill or something. And only when I'm in a song and not thinking about it will that particular thing start coming out and being expressed in my playing and stuff like that. And that's where the true freedom comes. So it kind of seems like that's the end goal to your kind of course and this whole thing that you're putting together. One question I had, sort of just going back a little bit, when you were talking about learning a lot teaching, because I teach drums as well, so I definitely see that, and I see a lot of that in my students. I go, that's kind of, I see that problem in me and things like this. So what are some of the kind of common things that you see from students, both not necessarily just vocal technique wise, but more so personality wise, in terms of a musician or a person, when they're struggling to learn things or get breakthroughs? Is there any kind of common things that stick out as takeaways that people could learn from?
Yeah.
Sorry, that was a lot.
No, it's hard. It's hard to sum that up, but I think we all could do with a little more self-love, which is a huge journey. But I think we, especially those of us that fucking hated ourselves in the past, at least, and are trying not to. It's very easy for that to come out, to where I try more positive reinforcement. And I can tell you that even when I notice people's belief patterns are basically reaffirming that they can't do something, I literally challenge them. I'm like, hey, you can hear me go on about like electromagnetic software-based reality, manifestation, all this kind of stuff that people will be like, that's nuts. What are you talking about? And like, and I don't care, like anything I say to him, I'm like, yo, don't take my word for it. But I'm like, try this. Try just changing that, flipping that script and believing that not only can you do this, but it's also not going to be that hard. And people have results where they've had blocks like almost immediately within like days and stuff. But I think in terms of people struggling with blocks, I mean, it's just kind of the dedication to the path. I mean, I'm still learning things or refining aspects of different techniques. I'll try out different ideas. That's the point of versatility. What I learn from students is also like, they're like, oh, well, this particular isolation exercise, whatever, I did it this way and that's what resonates with me. And I'm like, that's awesome. I hadn't thought about it that way. I'm going to add that to the list of variations for that I could then pass off to other people who might resonate with your way and, give credit where it's due. Cool. And that's kind of the thing is like, to loop that back, the method is meant to be like, okay, well, in my development, there's pieces of the puzzle that have existed. I took note of every piece of the puzzle I could find outside of myself. And then I sought to fill in all the blanks. Like I want there to be no stone left unturned. If someone asks me, how do I do this thing? I need to actually be able to lead them there with genuine, authentic value that's going to do the job. Yeah. And so that means incorporating different approaches, versatility, creativity, as well as like a ridiculous amount of organization, because the logical nuances of how something works actually becomes practical when troubleshooting. So if you're doing something and you're like, oh, this isn't working, what myself or Antonio or other people that are far in the method can be like, oh, well, try that. Try this one little muscular tweak in this particular way. And then boom, it works now. Because you can kind of hear or feel what could potentially be off. Well, I know theoretically that these are the components. So you can kind of go through the different ones in a no mind way, not thinking, oh, like that thing. It's like you kind of just from a feeling based muscle memory, subconscious, because you've familiarized with the isolation exercises enough. Like, for example, the NG thing or this kind of thing, which is really hyponasality. There's that helped me
find my soft palate doing that. Like really, like I knew that I was doing the soft palate anyway, but I wasn't aware what the hell a soft palate is and what that feeling is. And when you said, oh, like NG, like in the word song, you pronounce song. And all of a sudden you're feeling it in that nasally, like, and for Fry, especially, that's very important to resonate up here in the nose and the cheeks and the soft palate. You're like, oh, and that was a big clicking moment for me personally.
Yeah, there's a lot of those. I mean, I had the same thing, like, studying contemporary teachings and like raise the soft palate. I'm like, I don't know what I can look at I don't know how it feels to do that. And I'm like, well, it's like yawning. And I found it's in my free webinar so far, actually. That's in my link tree, where the process I like to do to identify where the soft palate is the NG to the sweet spot feeling, the because then that little resonance bubble you experience is actually directly on the palate. And then you can kind of get a sense of like how to round that feeling, how to raise it, blah, blah, blah. Yeah, man, there's so many, like even that's like a whole ass thing. And that's just like barely, it's essential, but it's like barely, like if someone was like, I end up going over a lot in my, especially early lessons with people, because there's so many fundamental things that I'm like, well, I want to give you a result by the end of this hour, but we need to discuss or experiment with different fundamental things to get to the actual thing that you're here to learn.
It definitely takes multiple lessons for sure to get to where you need to be. Well, you ain't got to do it in an hour.
The plan, like I wish I had all my free content out now, but the plan is to have like an abundance, like not like, hey, here's a free course and like, here's my webinar, buy my shit to get anything for real out of me. Like, the usual format those go. It's like, no, here's this is my course. Here's like a good third of it. Like there's going to be like at least 18 pieces of content, 6 of them being massive lessons. And if someone were to watch those lessons, then come to me, we could jump right in. I'm like, cool, I'm keeping this to a fucking hour.
Really smart because you're giving people relative information that's going to be useful whether they buy the course or not. Good promotion. And then if they do watch all the free stuff and they go, this is awesome, I want to learn more, they're jumping straight into the real in-depth stuff that you can actually get them to actually get a real professional refound and all that too as well.
I mean, the other thing is, unfortunately, the kind of niche that I'm in is people just, and I'm not saying this is my opinion. This is what I've heard from people. This is like a thing that's clearly a fucking thing, whether I like it or not. But people just assume screaming teachers aren't going to deliver them results. They kind of like, there's this kind of idea that like people say that they know stuff and maybe they know like a basic amount of things or lead someone to like a very fundamental level. But then again, the puzzle pieces aren't there. There's questions, there's empty spaces to fill. And so for me, I live my life with massive amounts of integrity. I'm not trying to just say that to like have a persona like this. I actually hold myself to a ridiculous amount. I literally just
think of fucking South Park every time I hear that word. Now, you got no integrity.
Oh fuck! I didn't even think of that.
You got damn integrity.
Integrity firms. Yeah. Especially regarding the climate of this niche, where people assume, maybe based on experience, that screaming teaching products won't deliver them results. Taking that into consideration, I already live my life with a lot of integrity to where I'll hold myself to a particular standard to not only treat people with decency and respect as a baseline, but that especially in my offerings, someone not getting a result, it could happen, but I'm going to do everything in my power to make sure that that's not the case. To where if I'm going to transact anything with anyone, whether it's a one-on-one lesson or a course, that there's actually value in there that's going to make a difference, and hopefully a big one. And so part of my motivation for having such extensive free material, which I don't right now, but I'm working on, is because I just don't. There's a couple things. One, I don't want to have to sell my fucking course. I don't want to have to be like, hey, yo, buy my thing. Take my word for it. Buy my thing. It's like, look at this free video.
Yeah.
If it works for you, awesome. And then you want to continue with me, thank you. That's great. I'm happy to help.
I saw this really good kind of analogy of that, and where it's like, I think it was Mike Johnson. He teaches drums, right? He basically says the stuff that he puts out for free on YouTube is like the dessert. It's like the sweet treats, all the things that like are nice, like good tips, like good little things and like tricks that entice you in. And then he's like, the real meat and potatoes is on my website. And he's like, that's where we really go in depth into everything. And that kind of strikes me as similar to what you're doing to set up.
Well,
like
hilariously, it's like yes and no, because it's like, well, so
it's almost like the other way.
Part of the reason is to provide value for people without them having to pay for anything, so that they can decide for themselves that it works or it doesn't.
Yes.
And then not have this like weird thing where they don't know if it's going to work and they're having to buy something. It's just here. The value is apparent. It's obvious. You know, I'm not having to. It's just like a weird vibe. I don't like salesman energy, and I definitely feel that I've done my due diligence to separate myself from that. Stereotype about screaming, teaching, and related products. Like it's so different. It's got so much more packed into it. So that's one thing. But lost my train of thought. What was the last thing you said?
That's all right.
Right. The dessert thing.
Yeah. I was just saying,
Right.
It's like, he just basically was saying that like the kind of the things that would excite you about the instrument, or the things that might give you that initial piece of like awesome value, that take home, that really get you interested and inspired. And then he's like, if you really like that and you enjoyed that, you got something out of it, let's dive deep inside behind the paywall.
Right. So in a way, my course system will be like that. And obviously for now, I just have a ton of stuff behind the course paywall and then not very much free because I'm trying to, again, I want to do one more laryngoscopy session. I'm trying to organize a bunch of stuff, get these flow charts going. It's just a ton of work. But the thing is that's a little different is all the free stuff actually is super valuable in a bunch of ways. It's not just the dessert stuff. It's actually like the whole foundation. So all the science stuff, all the theory, a buildup of different isolations for the vocal folds, false chords, cartilages. And the funny thing is that someone looking at what exists out there and then looking at that, they think, whoa, this free course has everything. It has because the result is going to be a couple different types of what I would call basic or unrefined screams.
Yeah.
But that's actually what it's going to include everything that everyone has ever talked about in a free tutorial, basically, like in terms of like the fundamental techniques and more, and present refined and unrefined approaches. And the thing is, the unrefined approaches can give you a result to a certain level, but then there's more of a tendency for that to plateau pretty quick. Whereas the more refined mechanics are what we build on in the volume. So volume 1's free, volume 1's fundamentals and all free. Volume 2 is advanced mechanics. That's a lot of what we've had in the course so far. And then volume 3 is complete techniques. Yeah. So it's going to be like go between simplicity and detail and like result and like here's how to do literally anything with all of this.
I can tell you what got me into it as well. If you want, just out of it, I just know how long I've known you now. I was like, I don't even think I've told you how like what made me like get in your course. It was your Genesis cover. So
nice.
I randomly was scouring YouTube and then I found that and then I was like, these screams are sick. Every waking moment I will melt away my life. And I was like, oh shit, I want to do that. This mic's cracking a lot and I'm really hoping it's not in the audio for the potty.
Because you're popping. Finger popping
like it's hot.
It sounds okay to me.
Yeah, cool. So yeah, but it was that, man. Little ADHD 30-second, 45-second like clip of you, and then I was like, yeah, I went straight and bought it right off the bat.
That's value speaking for itself.
Yeah.
That's part of it, though. Yeah, I obviously need to like
the hell
embody what I'm teaching. I need to like show that I can do what I would lead you to do, and the other reason of why I took some years off from posting anything is because in that process, I was like, there's pieces of the puzzle here that I'm not yet aware of that I need to become aware of to pass on, or else there's, how much.
Yeah.
It's like, I don't want to leave people hanging with stuff. So the fundamental stuff is actually like massive, and it will include all the fundamental basics that have been talked about for like over a decade and more, and contextualize everything and result in like kind of screams that you would get from the old ways of going about it, which people would think, oh, that's just the norm. But for me, I was like, that's like in 1-to-1 lessons, I don't even go there. We don't even fuck with that stuff. That's like, more elementary than what we're doing.
Speaking about old ways, what is sort of your opinion on like how metal or even just gritty screaming vocals has evolved over the years from like old school New York hardcore to, Slipknot in the 90s and, just really making that a part of mainstream, maybe not I'll say mainstream for the sake of mainstream metal and modern metal, how it became like that was like the technique that people wanted to hear was the growling, and then it's gotten even more aggressive over the years.
Yeah. So, I mean, this is a whole ass thing.
I was going to say that's a whole podcast episode but it sounds really interesting.
Yeah. I'll try to
just
give
instead of talking about like, I'm just trying to guide the convo for people that may not necessarily be, because we have multiple listeners from different revenues here. I feel like it'd be good. We've talked about, the muscular nuances and your vocal course and stuff like that. I think that's really awesome information. So now I'm trying to think of like what can we talk about for like other people that might be interested in just like the evolution.
Yeah, I have no idea about how it came to be. I just know that that's a metal thing, and from my perspective and outside, I have absolutely no idea. I just reckon it's obviously because they want aggression, and distortion is aggression. So
it ties back
singing,
ties back to the emotional thing that you were talking about before. Like,
Yeah.
I want to emotionally affect people through my music, the way that the people I look up to have emotionally affected me. Like, Slipknot was my first heavy metal band I listened to, with proper metal yelling and shit. And I was like, the moment I heard it, I was like, what is this? Like, this is making me like,
it was like first called like screamo and stuff. It's like just because of screaming. I was like, just classified everything
is
song
screamo.
was like,
I was like, no, it's not at all. It's just yeah. But yeah, sorry.
My first metal band was like, I'm Canadian and was born in Canada. I grew up in Arizona in the States for a while. So I actually got into like metalcore and deathcore in like 2005, 2006 when I was like 14. So then when I heard Whitechapel for the first time, I was like, ooh.
Yes.
Nice.
Ooh. Well, actually, you can incorporate your top 3 bands into this this topic as well, because we always ask people about their top 3 bands that have influenced them. So have a sneaky think about that in the back of your mind. There's no pressure on that.
I know what I'm gonna say, but my whole so I don't feel like I'm at all an authoritative opinion on like the evolution of metal stuff, but I'll give my perspective. And then my personal vocal journey is a whole ass thing as well, because I also went through like a really numerous massive spiritual transformation phases, I guess, since I started. So my taste in music changed, my relationship to the emission, or as people just say, energy of different music, and the intention behind it all changed. So I would say like before, my top 2 were Whitechapel, Chelsea Grin, classic deathcore kid. But then it like North Lane and Van Animate, now still Stare, up and coming band. Like there's just, I'll get into that later, but there's this particular kind of like that ambient beauty that is, you know, contrasted like yin and yang as well, with like some groovy, more like genty, heavy stuff. Like that's just the stuff that calls to my soul the most, where I can express light emotions and heavy emotions, but have them integrated together. And also the heavy emotions don't have to be overtly evil, or like even like negative, more just like not too heavy. There is negativity. Well, like they are heavy. It's heavy, but it's more like just being real.
Yeah, okay.
I'm basically just not glorifying negativity, or it's like, here's my wound and I'm letting it go now, not here I'm dwelling on it. There's always a light at the end of the tunnel.
That's very, I really like that, man. I really like the way you explain that, because I'm exactly the same. Like I absolutely love, like, when I put on music that I find heavy and music that Jordan finds heavy are two like separate. Like when I put on my heavy stuff, Jordan's like, what in the world is this? But in the same breath, I will say I hate listening to metal that's negative, and like, you know, I hate this is my own personal opinion.
How do you listen to metal?
No.
If you don't like
not
it,
negative.
it's negative.
This is why I need to explain the further part to give people context. When I say negative, I'm talking not like, because our music can be seen as negative, even our band's music, because we're talking a lot of propaganda. We're talking about propaganda and shit, not nice things. That's what I'm talking about.
Highlighting the negative.
That's what I'm talking about. But when I say negative, I mean like when people just be like, and the demons will come down and strike on the newborn baby was her. It's like, shut up. Like, I hate that shit.
Infant Annihilator. That's probably my best.
The first
thing. No, thank you. I hate that shit.
The first thing is, I'm not going to judge anyone for their artistic authenticity. I'm just not going to go there. I mean, I feel like I used to love Infant Annihilator when I was
I think instrumentally, I love the instrumentals. Like musically, I love it. It's just the vocals. I'm like, why are you talking about killing babies? Shut up.
But like, yeah, that's super fucked. I mean, I also think Filthy Frank's hilarious, and he's the opposite of politically correct. So just like, I used to be more immune to that in the past, but it's more like, I'm going to make whole videos about, you know, I practice high magic pretty much every day. Things that I think about and say or speak into the world manifest before me pretty frequently. I think this is the same for anyone, potentially you guys as well, who've done that kind of work or had that kind of enthusiasm.
Yeah.
But to me, it's just like, every time I covered a Viljarda song recently and converted it like took an instrumental and converted it with my own lyrics to something completely different than the original. And I'm going to be doing that with everything that I cover, because I don't want to speak things into existence that aren't in complete resonance with me. But within that, there's room for the natural positive and negative energetics and consciousness. It's just more that for me, there has to be context and orientation towards that light at the end of the tunnel. Because to me, that's what life really is. It's
That's
not
right.
just like when I was a kid, it's like things are dismal and I'm super depressed and I want you to know how pissed off I am about all
Fuck
this
you,
shit.
mom.
Yeah. Or like I used to feel more hopeless inside. So I used to resonate with music that kind of glorified negativity or hopelessness. Whereas now I'll be extremely real about the shadow aspects of myself or the world, but I'm not trying to give any more power to that.
You're not glorifying it. You're just identifying it, right? And speaking openly about it.
So this is a very nuanced thing. Yeah, it's nuanced, and so yeah, it's not that I even don't respect certain musicianship with, like, you know, because I know people like still have lots of friends who still do the deathcore thing, and they do it really well, and like they have their own perspectives on, well, they're going to just be super negative about a thing because they're purging it, and I respect that, and I respect anyone's, you know, musical individuality, and I'm never going to be like, fuck that thing, because it used to be like me too. I'd just be judging myself if that was the case. It's more just like, and I don't know if you resonate with this yourselves, but like, especially after I got really deep into plant medicine and psychedelic inner work, which I haven't for a few years now, but there was a few years I was going really hard with that and just using it as catalyst for growth. But then as well, the high magic, I'm so sensitive to things now to where like it actually would hurt me to listen to music that, you know, has a certain emission or consciousness quality towards negativity or self-loathing or just things like this, to where a part of me maybe is likes it like a guilty pleasure, but it actually hurts me. Like I can feel it, that it hurts me to listen to this. Yeah. And so for me, even when I get really heavy in my music, I'm like, there's something in me that's got to come out, and I respect that, and I'm going to give room for that. So that part of me feels loved and validated, but it's all got to be balanced. And I'm doing this, everything I do in for music, for me personally, has to be based on my own value system, oriented towards love and unity. That's always going to be the message, which is the message of authentic spirituality. It's like, there's nothing else. There's no like love and, or love, but
love is,
it's just like, just love.
That's right.
And everything beyond that is just going to kind of corrupt.
I've been trying to explain to Cam that he needs to go on his own plant medicine journey.
I'm having shiitake. I cook shiitake mushrooms.
He's eating shiitake mushrooms. He thinks that's dipping his toe in.
I got lion's mane.
Hilarious.
I'm going to be having lion's mane soon. Let me transition.
So he's getting there.
I'm woke as fuck without the
lion's
psychedelic.
Mane, that's what we're calling plant medicine.
This is,
I mean, there's a lot of plant medicine.
I know, right?
Hey,
right. This is what he thinks.
But no,
I totally agree with that though, because you know, in like, for instance, in the dance music scene, in electronic music, I was touring. I was in a pretty toxic environment, in nightclubs, on my own. It's full of negativity, full of people, you know, taking themselves and basically trying to distract themselves from reality. And that was the time I was going through my spiritual transformations and plant medicine, things like this. And I was able to understand that that's not the environment that I wanted to be in, and not the place that I like. And like you said, it felt off. It didn't feel authentic. It didn't feel like the right pursuit for me.
Yeah, you told me you weren't happy.
And I just, fully left turned out of it and was like, that's not where I want to be. And previously, you know, metal music, back when I was 16, 17, throwing down to stuff, and like I could get down to the harder stuff that was like, I didn't care what they said. It was like that rebellious kind of attitude. But now everything that we say has to have some sort of greater meaning and purpose, and some deeper reading between the lines for it to kind of be authentic.
Or else it's like, why bother?
Yeah,
right?
exactly. It's like, it doesn't feel like it's a pursuit of something that feels real, true, you know?
And so if you were in the EDM scene, it's like what you're talking, like everyone's fucking noodling around on ketamine kind of thing.
Yes, yeah.
It's the fucking best, but also the worst.
Like it's the best, but it's when you see the same people in the same environment all the time. It's like I'm all for having some fun and being in an environment where you have a good state of mind and you're able to go and have fun and experience ecstatic states, but when you're going in there to escape, to drown yourself in sorrows, and you're there week in, week out, surrounding with negativity, that's when it's like...
Is that more like alcohol crowds, you mean now?
Yes, alcohol, cocaine.
Okay, because that doesn't sound like freaking the EDM shows I've gone to.
Well, yeah, see, America seems to, and Canada, obviously... Canada's way better. They seem to just do it a lot better than
people here. Just want to get fucked up.
People just get really loose drunk and lots of cocaine, and it's not a pretty sight. It's everyone
that definitely invokes
on mushrooms.
That invokes a lot of dark consciousness for sure.
Exactly, and
I'm not even gonna go into that, but teach their own, I guess. But yeah, definitely something that's like that. I feel like as you start to like. Say this without going into things. As you start to shed density, as people I find, by the way, just for perspective, anyone watching, as someone who's deeply into spirituality, what I would call authentic and integrative spirituality that doesn't have any dogma or like ideology or anything weird attached to it. And I respect everyone's personal explorations and don't want to anyways,
you're such a perfectionist.
I lost my train of thought. I just, man, this shit's so.
It's like you can tell that every time you want to say something, you're like, if I say the wrong thing, I'll explode.
Well, it's not that. It's just that
it's trying to get it across
a deep sense of
in a simplistic
honor
manner,
towards
right?
people's authentic truths, and I don't think. I just know from experience and seeing things that these kind of topics require a lot of nuance and care because they can be
interpreted differently.
Kind of like suggestive in different ways where I don't want it to project onto people and, keep people keep in touch with their own truths and such. But and then I lose my train of thought because it's like, it's really delicate stuff. Like it just doesn't feel right to not give that level of care towards it.
I totally agree, man. I think it's like what these topics are deep and it requires a lot of thought and conversation and reflection. So it's kind of, you're right. We don't want to put anything out that kind of people can grasp onto that's not quite right and done in the right way.
Yeah.
So
I wouldn't want to mislead anyone or have anything I say cause a negative reaction with someone when it's out of context. So I think what I was going on is like, we all naturally go through shedding processes where we shed density, where the new age, whatever, the thing I was saying, I'm not shitting on the new age stuff, but I laugh at how spirituality has become like mainstream and it's like, raise your vibe, man. But like, don't actually know what that actually means or like, it just becomes very watered down.
Mm-hmm.
But so,
which happens
to me, it's not even about raising a vibe. It's about shedding. It's like you're a balloon and that you have anchors attached to you. And as you shed density, you naturally will elevate in your quality of consciousness. And that's not to say someone's above someone else either. That's just wherever anyone's at. And so I'm also saying this because I'm not saying this to judge anyone who drinks alcohol or if that's true for them now or they enjoy it. I did that a lot in the past. But all I was getting at is in the spiritual attunement process or shedding process, to which, even the idea of enlightenment, I find kind of ridiculous for the average person, myself included. It's like, there's no like time where you're enlightened. It's just a continual lightening process.
Exactly.
It's like, you used to be this heavy with your emotional layers and mental layers and entities attached to you and such. And then you shed that and then you naturally become lighter, which is more, you could say,
you're not carrying around all that
freaking
dead weight. It's like literal weight almost. Like it feels like a weight on your shoulders. Like when you're carrying that around, it's like physical, man.
Metaphorically.
I can definitely see that. That's cool.
Drinking alcohol is something that keeps you tethered to that density and invokes density. And if you go into a sea of people that are invoking that, it's going to affect you. So I also can't do that.
I got a massive
anymore.
thing on alcohol, man. Like when I used to be real bad with alcohol, and it took me, won't go into it, but borderline nearly going to jail just for shit I did whilst intoxicated. And then I was like, it was at that moment when I'm like looking at a judge, I'm not going to say it, but I was like, whoa, like I had like this epiphany, and I was like, every single bad thing that had ever happened to me, alcohol was directly involved. Even if it wasn't an alcoholic problem, I may have had a fight with my girlfriend or something and we broke up, whatever it was. We were drunk at the time. Or
I know people that have the same.
Yeah.
It's a low vibrational substance, and that environment, you know, like just sort of taking it back, like you're right. Like that's what sort of changed me and changed my music taste is realizing that these low vibrational kind of behaviors and patterns I didn't want to be associated with. So I guess, maybe kind of going back then, if we can kind of just round back to
the music.
Yeah, only because I just don't want to dive too deep into it.
432.
I feel like me and you could talk about 432 hertz and all that for hours. But
can I share one thing before we tangent about this Canadian EDM scene? So
yes.
For 3 years, I went festivaling pretty hard because I found that I had a bunch of friends going, and then I found that community was like, whoa, people are like on the vibe. That's amazing. I didn't know this existed. My top favorites were Bass Coast and Shambhala. I don't know if you know what those are.
Yeah.
But the crazy thing is, so like I did a lot of plant medicine, like ayahuasca, wachuma stuff, like yearly, and a lot of inner work on my own. But like at the show, at those festivals, it was like, you know, like MDMA and like acid Saturdays and stuff, and like some mushrooms sometime, and then later some ketamine, and it was great. It's such a good vibe. But then those even places where mostly people are in good spirits, there's also a dark underbelly of things that happen or stuff. And furthermore, and I don't, at this point in life, I don't even do those anymore. And I don't do psychedelics around people at all anyways, like maybe my partner and our closest friends. But what I found out, and especially after I started the lightning process, is that especially psychedelics, alcohol too, but psychedelics more, blast open your energy centers. So when you're walking into a sea of people, like high on something where your energy centers are opened up, and then all those other people are also opened up, there is this exchange of emotional, mental, and like even entity related consciousness exchange that I'm just like, whoa, man, like now that I've started to shed shit, I can't do that anymore. And I wish I fucking could, because it was so fun. But like, I'm just like, that's going to hurt, man.
Yeah.
That's like,
I'm not going into battle like that.
Hardcore. Yeah, man.
I totally
but
agree.
like at the same time, it was like the most beautiful experiences, and there were so much amazing things. But it's like, it just, the thing I was going to say before about alcohol too is like, it's just weird how you outgrow stuff spiritually.
Yeah.
And it just wouldn't be the same if you went back to it. It'd be like, it's going to hurt more than it's going to be fun, kind of.
Different relationship. It changes over the time and like through your experience. That's right.
I never used to be able to just have a couple. I used to be just bad and had to get off my head every time. Now I can have 3 or 4 and be like, all right, that's enough, and then just stop, which is really cool.
It was, you know how, we'll get back to the music, I promise. But you know how like, you know, the Jackass, like movies and stuff? I've watched all of them. I think they're hilarious. Dave England, they would talk about how he'd have this alternate ego when he's drunk.
Yes.
Is that this motherfucker?
Yes.
Pretty much.
Would he just be like
not
more
that,
demonic,
definitely
version of himself?
Not that bad. Like I wasn't that bad, because I have heard these stories, but I was borderline probably towards that. Well, my issue was I'd be very loving, like where I'd love everyone, but then I would just jump with people and like play, like try to be friends with everyone when I would have no barrier to be like, if they were giving me vibes of like piss off, I wouldn't be able to like.
So,
you know what
you're
I mean?
basically the most problematic characters from Big Les, just all in one person.
Yeah, I would like one time I stole a forklift whilst walking home from the valley because I spent all my money and I couldn't afford a cab, so I walked home, and then me and my mate somehow ended up jumping a fence, and then we found a forklift with the keys in it, and we drove it out, and then we got arrested.
And we're supposed to go on tour.
I don't drink anymore though, so I'm fine. Well, I drink responsibly now. Like I can just have a couple. But funny. The old me was silly. And
I'm glad you're past it. I mean, I've done dumb shit when I was drunk when I was younger too, so I can't say shit. But I've definitely never stolen a forklift. So I'm glad you pulled the plug on that one. So you guys, do you want me to go back to the thing about the timeline of metal and stuff? And
let's finish that question up because I haven't had brekkie and it's been like an hour and a half and I'm like my stomach's growling. So let's finish
that little evolution of metal. Then give us your top 3 bands and then we'll call it. How's that? We can do round 2 again sometime.
Yeah, sounds good. So I don't think I'm qualified as an authoritative opinion on that evolution.
We're not even qualified to run a podcast, so here we are.
Yeah,
you're allowed to say your opinion, bro. Don't stress.
Yeah, it's all opinion.
Yeah. I'm just giving that context because it's like there's, I've seen media about this that people are way more researched, but the context that I want to share about is more in relation to the original thing about Melissa Cross and where we're at now. The crazy thing to think about is how like metal as we know it now, like my partner's mom says she likes heavy metal. And I'm like, oh, cool. What? And she's like, Led Zeppelin.
Yeah.
And to where now, like we would call that like soft rock or something.
Yeah. Back then that was like,
classic rock.
So there's this natural evolution that's happened, obviously. And I mean, I was late to the show, right? I was 14. I was born in 92. So like I was 14 in 2006 thinking, oh dude, this metalcore shit's so dope. And then there's anything before 2006 era, like that just kind of wasn't a thing. There was like a different kind of metalcore from like the 2000s, but it was all different.
Was like heavy, like really heavy.
And so there's all these, all these decades of buildup to where we couldn't really discredit anything from the earlier days because it led to where we're at now.
100%.
And, there's all this diversity. But on the vocal level, let's just talk. This is something it'd be nice to just finish with anyways, is that the original definitions Melissa Cross gave for vocal techniques, most of which that are more true than what the internet did with them. But both of those are different than my terminology now because there's just been more evolution and more need for certain nuances to be expressed. But imagine being in like 2004 and no one's done like any like total pioneer zone for her. Like no one's called anything. There's no classical or contemporary teacher that'll touch this shit. And there's all these metal guys. Some of them do this yelling thing. Other ones sound more like the Cookie Monster.
Yeah.
And that's kind of it. Like there's either they're kind of yelling and doing distortion, or they're kind of going like, and like it's super elementary. Like if someone relates that to like the full techniques that we do now at the pinnacle of like deathcore and death metal, it's just not even comparable mechanically. It's like, but then you can't shit on those 90s bands that did that because that was like that's all there was. Like they're pioneering that shit, so it's like it is what it is.
All the people who did it incorrectly too, for all us new vocalists to know like that doesn't work. He blew his voice out doing that, so thank you for your sacrifice.
and so Melissa Cross, I guess, basically what I would say her work always was extreme vocal optimization. It was taking a lot of times of screamers that were already screaming and teaching them how to actually use the vocal mechanism in an optimal way, which is huge. Whereas then what needed more pieces of the puzzle, I think, was just the beginning steps of isolation exercises like I filled in a lot for the vocal folds, false chords, and cartilages respectively, and then how to combine them, like a lot of more the muscular stuff there. But it's all like applied classical or applied contemporary principles with adjustments and coordination for metal techniques. But the interesting thing is, so the Fry noise thing, I think, I don't know this, but I think she kind of recognized that, distinguished, by the way, Cam, every time you say like, oh, false chord this, and then you go like, and then you're like, that's what that is. Well, the original definition was, and the band that she uses, this band called Unearth, I never listened to, but they sound like, too many have lost their way. Like that's kind of the tone that they have. So that's by definition false chord technique. Right. Whereas nothing on the internet that says false chord is pointing at that.
No,
because that's like late 90s, early 2000s style, right? And so then there's all these different things where technically vocal fry related mechanics could be related to a number of things like the TA relaxing, technical term, but also the CT stretching, which is like falsetto and compression. So when you go ooh and ooh, ooh, and if I wanted to make that louder, I can use the false chord mechanic with it. Right? And so now it sounds like a totally different thing. But my vocal cords are actually going
but
when I do that.
Power from the breath support, right? And the false chord mechanic.
You could relate that fry technique as like a false chord technique that's past the falsetto threshold.
Yeah.
And the compression from the false chord mechanics actually enhances the fry effect itself. So there's weird things in this, but back then when these terms were invented, that wasn't a thing.
Yeah.
And then there was also, she would call death when people do like the ooh, which is this really, really basic, unrefined use of the cartilages. And then that was appropriate at the time because at that stage in the evolution, then 2006 comes along like a year later and Phil Bozeman's like, and you're like, sounding like, holy shit, like that changes everything. This guy's using the mechanics in a completely refined way. And then you're mixing all three layers, vocal fry aspects. Like then it just exploded after 2006, which could be like, well, maybe the Zen of Screaming helped that. Maybe it was just coincidence. But either way, there was the base terms that were the only thing that was around. And then metalcore, deathcore exploded, tons of other subgenres exploded, and suddenly we have like all these techniques that are like way crazier than like anything pre-2004, 2005. And then it's just gotten crazier and crazier since then to where we are now, and I couldn't even be aware of all the different subgenres and vocal
it's
styles
like
that
they've just taken the original sounds that people sort of came up with and then really refined them to make them easier, like, and more powerful and all the above, and just be able to use them across different techniques. Yeah.
And it's like, it's just, and so essentially in terms of the history of metal vocals and what's happened terminology wise and why I'm stepping in with a whole new system is because the original system was relevant to what existed at the time. And then the internet took that and then shifted it to what was developing, but then things got convoluted and lost their meaning. And there was too much divisiveness and not a unified kind of awareness that this shit's actually a spectrum. There's this and there's that. It's all a unified spectrum, like not black and white. It's a big gray area.
It's all one instrument that you can play around with. Yeah, that's awesome, bro.
And
different techniques.
And the modifications of the mechanics, some of them are so similar, it's like it's ridiculous. But the distinctions that I would make in that is that there's different ways. Like so basically, she started with false chord, fry, death. Death never caught on. The internet took false chord and fry to mean black and white for different things, while not acknowledging that they have crossover and that the ways that people define them is usually pretty weird. Like it and I don't mean that to be like, I don't want to sound too judgy of it. It's just knowing what I know of the mechanics. I'm like, it just doesn't actually add up anatomically. So what it would relate to is there's the spectrum, and then you could say you could say it a ton of different ways. You could say there's more of a voicey mix or shout mix, and then a heavy mix, more of a human toned side like and an inhuman toned side.
Yeah, Adrian from North Lane's original lineup, what they had is the more shouty vocal, which is the screams I wish I can one day do, because I just think tonally they are my favorite.
But his lows are more on the inhuman side,
exactly.
Right?
So he switches technique.
All on the inhuman side or heavy mix side, you have all three layers. You have the vocal folds, false chords, and cartilages.
It's like Will Ramos would be like the inhuman side, wouldn't he?
And so within that side of the spectrum, you have a false chord dominant or cartilage dominant expression, to where what I'm doing is more cartilage dominant. Whereas if I put more of this into it, so if I go, That's more cartilage heavy. I'm relaxing off the vocal folds, relaxing off the false chords. But if I go, hey, if I were to do this, that's more false chords.
That's so cool. That's so awesome.
Right? You got a minute 20, bro, before the thing cuts.
But then the voice side of it, and this ties into all of the 1990s stuff, everything to now, you could, there's singing with distortion, but in terms of screams on the voice side, you could say there's the power fry style, which is taking whoa and actually just keeping that phonation. Then there's the false chord style, which is like the shouts with false chord, like, hey, and then doing something with that, more compression, different tone. And then there's the fry hybrid, which takes that and edges it towards the conditions of the power fry, but is not one or the other. It's a completely unique set of conditions where you have a mix of phonation qualities. And then you could say you have the melodic screams or melodic false chord stuff where the vocal folds are actually, doing notes and stuff. So like there's all these subcategories that are totally legit that Melissa Cross actually had more correct than what the internet did. And I have to come in and create my own system, but kind of give context to all of that so that we can understand everything from this, not just divisive stuff. That's kind of my hyper compressed perspective on vocal stuff. Cause now with the new awareness of the different layers, how they combine, how the scales get tipped in terms of recessiveness or dominance of the layers, it opens you up to where you could do any vocals. You can communicate the nuances of different techniques and styles. You can adjust them based off like, okay, well, isolated false chord mechanics, cartilage mechanics, vocal fold mechanics, etc. And you could just make little tweaks. It's like you have the whole mechanism and you're just tweaking this and that until you end up with the sound you want, which is like crazy nuanced compared to, older styles, which is like you kind of just go, ugh, and then cool. Now try not to suck. Like literally try not to suck for like 3 years and you'll. But the thing is, the people that actually get really good at it are doing the things that I'm teaching as principles and mechanics that are just essential to where one stage beyond my course, when I do featured master classes with different vocalists, will be decoding techniques of, popular vocalists to where it's like, okay, you can do this really well, which means that you can do these different pieces of the puzzle that I've laid out. Because if you couldn't, then you wouldn't be sounding how you're sounding.
Yeah.
So you plan on getting
kind of break down.
You plan on getting popular vocalists from other bands to jump on and break down some stuff with it, because you've talked to Will Ramos. I know that you've talked to obviously Melissa Cross. You've worked with some people. I mean, Antonio's vocals are dope. Hopefully, my vocals in the future can be even better. So you got a few people.
There's a long list of people, but it's more the I'm updating the website, the course, blah blah blah, because I want there to be an automated system that pays out people. Where someone hops on, they get a cut of the course sale. That's a prerequisite, and then they'll get half of whatever the masterclass thing is. But what's going to be sweet is usually when vocalists hop on those kinds of things, the listener doesn't really gain too much vocal knowledge out of them ever. This is at least what I've heard. This is what I've seen myself, but then heard from people is that tends to be the case, which is fine because these vocalists aren't teachers; they're just saying stuff. And there is some helpful tips, but not like the full package, I guess. But what I'll be able to do is it's not on their shoulders to teach. I'll be asking the questions to decode, check in on their mechanics, check in on like how they're shaping the vocal track to where we could take things we've learned in the course and be like, okay, we're going to tweak. And then now we have a template for you to manipulate your voice towards this person's general tone quality while still being yourself. It's not like, here's how to sound like this, literally.
Exactly, yeah.
It's like, what's your voice sound like when you
apply those principles,
reflect the same mechanics and stuff. So it's going to be really fucking cool, but like I have a million things to do before I get to that.
There's a lot on the back end, isn't there? Yeah.
Sick, man. Well,
even these flow charts, man, are going to be so next level, but like are so hard to do. So
I've seen a few of them on Antonio's screen, right? When he shared his screen, I've seen all the little.
Oh, that's not even it. I'm talking like I got this like online app called Whimsical, and it's like, imagine, you know, in all the ways we organically have led you to different techniques, except them listed as boxes where it's like, like it's just like you start with this, then there's a little arrow that says this is what you do and you end up with this, and then this is what you do and you end up with this, and to where it's like a map.
Wow,
all the pieces together.
And it's basically like taking those puzzle pieces that we can organically kind of
put them in a step
go through and be like, this is how they connect, and then at the end, and the cool thing about the vocal mechanism is not only are now the lights on in that metaphorical room, the puzzle pieces are there, you could see them, you can connect them, you can experience them. But then the last touch is with the modification potential and knowing how to modify each thing, you can then paint over the puzzle piece to result in whatever image you want.
Yeah, you can start with one and then you can detour to another technique halfway through and use the half technique from here, half
it would be like
and blend them.
If a single puzzle piece was like a Rubik's Cube in where you could flip and the color that you're looking at changes, you know? It's kind of like that, where there's so much modification potential that it's insane. But it's like, this is why my job's so fucking hard and it's taken me years. And I've done a lot, but there's just still more to do, where it's like those, you know, to organize how things are one thing, but also unique, but also connected, but also, you know, variable. It's just like a very ridiculous amount of things to not only organize, but then simplify for the people who are like, I don't want to know how all this works. I just want to do it.
Yeah. Like, just turn it into a product for the normal average person that might come and see it. Yeah.
And so what I'm doing is all of it at once. It's like, oh, you want the details, you want the simple, we got it all. So that's kind of where I'm going for.
If anyone watching this wants to, you know, fucking listen to this entire podcast and has all of this information, and that even this is not even scratching the surface with Brandon, as I would know with the countless lessons we've had one. I've paid for an hour and we've gone for like 2.5 hours. So like, you know. Pretty much.
Hey, that's not always going to be the case.
That's not a special deal.
I'm trying to get away from that.
That's funny. As I provide him with mixing and producing services, so I produce instrumentals for him and go.
We don't need to know what you guys do behind closed doors. I think we're quite. It's all right.
So you know, you guys aren't going to get that deal. But anyway, so you know. I think that's a really good spot.
I just say that like it's an hour, and anything that I choose to give to someone is from the goodness of my own heart, not an expectation that I could.
You definitely seem passionate about it, and you're giving away as much, like, you know, heaps of knowledge and willing to go deep on stuff. So that's really
unified,
awesome, man.
Unified Vocal Extreme.
Right.
Extreme.
You can do it
Unified
on
Extreme.
Unified Vocal Extreme.
Whatever.
Yeah. So
Brandon Kennedy on YouTube. You do it.
You can go to unifiedextreme.com.
There it is.
Or it's Unified Extreme Vocal Academy on Facebook.
Perfect.
YouTube, it's Brandon
and then
Kennedy.
My Instagram is light.prevails. But or the Unified Extreme Vocal Academy on Instagram, but both of those have my link tree in the description.
Yeah, nice.
And that link tree contains links to the course, a couple bits of free content, things like covers, lessons, and reviews for lessons, and then I'll chuck this podcast on there too.
Yay, so awesome! That's so good. Thank you, bro.
Of course, man. Appreciate it.
Well, we'll chuck your links in all the show notes of stuff and descriptions and various things. And then personally, you know, I really appreciate you taking the time to come out and sit down and talk through all this with us. And I'm sure now that we've gone through a few of those topics, I'm writing a few down that we can maybe dive into a bit deeper in the future, because love to have you back on and chat some more stuff. So
yeah. Sounds good, man. This was a busy day to do it, but I'm glad we did. And of course we'll do more.
Hell yeah.
And I mean, I'm sure we'll be collabing in the future more too. Like,
we're gonna have you feature on one of our songs.
Stuff.
Yeah. You're not getting out without featuring.
Sure. Well, I told Cam, did he ever prank you with sending you the vocals?
Yes.
Did you actually think it was him, or you're like, fuck no?
No. They were like,
I'd like to, you know, stroke his ego a little bit and say that it was like I was convinced it was him, but
your tone's too good. They're like, nah, you can't get that good.
This guy though, Cam's actually really talented, and he has all the pieces of the puzzle. But it's the trick is just getting them to go together without thinking, because you have to drop into the no mindset and just do it. Which is why I think the last time I talked, I was like, "You're insanely good at this, just like projected vocal fry thing. Let's just put down the shout screams for a sec, the hybrid stuff. Let's just do that one, because you clearly have skills here. Like I feel like, and he has all the pieces. It's just like we haven't had time recently to." Deep
I want to get it
in
the same as the false chord, because the false chord, I know it's not false chord, the cartilage, whatever.
Just call it low, because
the buzzer, the scream that I start from the buzzer, like that one comes so naturally. I don't have to think about it. We were recording vocals yesterday, and I just
heavier side of vocals could either be false chord or cartilage dominant in any given moment.
Yeah,
but yours particularly are pretty strong with cartilage mechanics.
Yeah.
So and this is, I guess, a good wrap up on other things said. Anything that's on the heavier, more inhuman side, rather than going into nuances of what layer is more active, because that's redundant as shit. I just call them lows, mids, or highs, because everything that's atonal, everything that's not a voice dominant thing, you might as well just call them lows, mids, or highs, because that's how everyone kind of says it. So it's like, oh, you're lows. Yeah. Boom.
Yeah.
You know what you're talking about. Yeah, straight away.
So it's like, we don't need to go into the nuances of how exactly you're doing it right now.
Yeah. Very true.
Let's wrap it up then, gentlemen, because I want Eggs Benedict coming my way.
Well, thanks, man.
Hungry boy.
Yeah, we'll get this boy fed, and then we'll get on with our day. So thanks very much, bro. Much appreciated, and hopefully we'll chat to you soon. Sweet.
Thank you.
Thanks for listening, everyone.
Talk to you guys soon.
All right, bye.
Peace out, dude.
Bye, bro. See you later,
you don't have to cancel it on him. I'll just stop it there.
Bye. I can't. How do I do it?